Hey, welcome to Goals, Grit, and some woo-woo shit. Today, we are talking about the goal of designing your house like a healthy MFer. You are going to learn how your interior design can help or hinder you doing your healthy habits. And I talk about this a little bit in my book in the chapter called The Life-Changing Magical Art of Your Shit Together. And I give examples of stuff like clearing some physical space to work out, making sure you have containers for your meal prep, and making sure you've got a sports bra that's going to do its damn job. But to be honest, organizing physical stuff is not my strongest skill. My desk is always a jumble of papers. I can only fit like 3 bowls in the dishwasher and then I give up because it's full. My next guest, on the other hand, is an expert. And she even offers a professional service to help people design their homes to facilitate the 7 habits of highly healthy motherfuckers that I talk about in my book. Melanie Zaelich is an award-winning interior designer and the owner of Happy Place Interiors. Isn't that a great name? Like, go to your happy place. She has transformed over 1,500 homes with the goal of using the power of interior design to bring more happiness to more people. She's also a board member of the nonprofit Joy Collective, an organization that designs and builds amazing spaces to enhance the lives of kids with life-limiting conditions. In this episode, Melanie is going to teach you how your space directly impacts your well-being and interior design tips and tricks to help promote the 7 habits of healthy motherfuckers and fight the fuckets. You'll also hear fun things like the color that makes you eat more and the unhealthy decor mistake that has escalated since the pandemic, and how Melanie designed her exercise room so she's always reminded of her why. Enjoy.
Breaking news. Your dream life isn't going to happen because you made a vision board. You're going to need goals, grit, and some woo-woo shit. This podcast is about getting clarity on what you want, having the grit to do the actual work, and most importantly, constantly training your brain to be your bitch. Ready to be inspired? Here is your host, best-selling author, Una Duncan.
All right, I am here with Melanie, and I am so happy to have you here. Thank you so much for doing the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, okay, so I did a little bit of stalking on your site, and I noticed that you offered a service on designing for your well-being. And I was like, oh, no, it was designing for healthy habits. Am I getting it right? What's the actual title of the service?
Well, it's changed over the course of like the last week. So it was Healthy Habits, Happy Home. And then I changed it to wellness-focused interior design, just so it was a little bit more broad maybe. But
right. So I was like, Healthy Habits, what is this? And I clicked on it. And you have a service to help people design their homes in alignment with the 7 habits of highly healthy motherfuckers based on my book. I'm so flattered. That's really cool, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty awesome. Well, when I joined the program a year ago, it was life-changing. And I've been doing interior design for about 7 or 8 years. And there was a different way when I joined the program. You know, we go through our kitchen cabinets and we take out the junk food. And we always set up our kitchens to help promote healthy habits, you know, chopping vegetables, getting a smoothie maker, all that kind of stuff. And as a designer, I was like, but healthy habits aren't just in your kitchen. They're every room in your house, your bedroom, your living room, you know, the family room. Every single space has some sort of habit attached to it, or how you just generally feel, you know, with stress or anxiety. The mudroom, I mean, that's a classic example of stress because there's, you know, and those lucky enough to have a mudroom, you know.
Good point.
A lot of us don't have a mudroom, myself included. So after kind of going through that kitchen and setting it up for myself, for my healthy habits, I just intentionally started looking more so in every room, like, okay, how can I apply what I know, but get really specific on these healthy habits?
Amazing. Okay, well, I'm going to ask you to go through that with us. But first, so people have a little bit more context, can you tell people who you are, what you do? I know that you've been profiled in some pretty exciting interior design magazines and blogs and stuff like that. So tell us a little bit of the context about what you do.
Sure. So I own a company called Happy Place Interiors, and I've been in business for about 7 or 8 years. And my business model is very different than a kind of conventional interior designer. I work with people that are like stuck with their house. They just don't know what to do. They moved into whatever house, they unpacked and they're stuck. But for whatever reason, they don't necessarily want to hire a conventional designer or firm to come in and give them a $20,000 or $80,000 living room. They want to figure it out themselves. I work with a lot of DIYers. I work with a lot of people that enjoy decorating, people that just kind of need to get a vision, ideas, inspiration. I work with a lot of couples that don't agree on certain things.
You are doing God's work there.
Oh, yeah. I have often been called like a marriage therapist or like a decorating coach or design coach, because I would just come over and let's say your living room, and you're just like, I don't know, is this the best arrangement? I'm like, here, let's turn this around and flip this and that and move all this. And I'm like, okay, from here, do you like your sofa? No, I want a new sofa. Then we get into the details and I give people direction, and then they kind of go out and do the work that a designer would conventionally do. And I just guide them. So they'll send me pictures. Here are couches that are comfortable. Which ones fit with my design? And I'll be that one. Get that one and get this ottoman and this rug. And so they're more hands-on. I'm a little more hands-off, but I'm like a guide or a coach.
I love it. Well, you sound like, the very skilled best friend that everyone wishes they had to come and help them sort out their place. Because I think people have this idea of an interior designer is very elitist and very fancy, and I could never afford one. And you're kind of like, no, I'm here. I can help you out.
Yeah, I'm your friend. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Melanie, you know what's so funny? I'm talking to you and I'm realizing that I'm getting self-conscious about my background, my interior design. And it's so funny because I realize like that's absurd. And I talk to people often. I'll be at a party and I'll say what I do, and someone will stop mid canapé and be like, oh, "Are you judging me for eating this?" I could not care less. It's not like I go around radaring everyone's health behaviors, and I'm sure you don't either. But I just noticed that I was having those thoughts of like, I'm just looking at my laminate calendar behind me.
Oh no, not at all.
Yeah, I'm sure not. Okay, so great. Thank you for that context. Now, please tell us. You had this epiphany. You joined my program. I bullied you into cleaning out your pantry and stuff. And you're like, okay, this makes a huge difference. And I know how I can apply this same theory to the rest of the house. Did I get that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. So tell us more.
Okay. So I have kind of 5 like overall key components that people, the listeners can, or yourself can look at in their house, and it's really about being intentional with your space. Because every space, whether it's your house or a restaurant or a hotel, has a vibe. It gives off a certain vibe. Like you pulled up to a hotel, you walked in that lobby and you're like, oh, this is going to be a freaking nightmare. Or, oh, I can't believe we're here. Like there's always a vibe, and your house has a vibe. You might not be aware of it. And maybe that's kind of the woo-woo shit that we're talking about, but it's there. Like, every space has a vibe. So it's being intentional about what vibe you want to create for what room in your house. So 5 kind of overarching things that you can look for. The first one that I think is probably the biggest thing are your sight lines. So what I mean by that is when you're standing in your kitchen, right? What do you see when you look in the doorway? Or if you have a big island, what's on the other side? When you turn this way and you're looking into a mudroom, what does that look like? If you're standing in your living room, like, what does that look like? And so here's a story. This actually happened to me. So we've lived in our house for 12 years, no kids when we moved in. And right off of our kitchen is a TV room. So we don't have a TV in our formal living room. It's in our like den. Then we have our daughter. Then toys happen. Well, that's a natural toy room. So that's where the toys go. And I got those cube storage containers and put all the toys in there. But from my view of the kitchen, the wall that was open at the time where I put all the toys. So it made sense. But every time I look in that room, it was full of toys. Like I couldn't not be stressed because to me, it's a to-do list. I have to go clean that room. Yeah. I have to organize it. So I went in there. I just like the anxiety when I was intentional, when I looked at it and thought about it, I could feel that anxiety of having to clean that room. So I literally just swapped the position of the sofa and the toys. Now my view in the kitchen, which I'm in all the time, of course, is my cute blue sofa and a cute pillow. I just positioned it where I can see a little bit of my table lamp with a little plant on it. The artwork is right there. My view is always lovely. The toys are still there. It's still a freaking mess, but I can't see them. So it's that kind of sight line. Also in my house, when anybody is sitting in my living room and our bathroom doors open, see the it's toilet? A straight shot. So on the little built-in vanity, I have the big, beautiful display of flowers, just kind of probably a little bigger than you would think about putting on there. But now that sight line for me and my guests sitting in, it's like, oh, those are really pretty flowers. Right. So it's really, a lot of people have their primary bedroom is fairly big, and you walk into the hall and there's just a corner. Like what you walk into is like a corner.
Yeah.
Yeah. Put a beautiful plant or a cute a chair to meditate with a little rug under it, little side table. So when you walk into that room, instead of seeing an empty corner or boxes of stuff or a treadmill or worse, a work desk, we'll talk about that. But you have this great little chair and it feels kind of like a hotel suite. So it's really those sight lines and the vibe that it starts to create. Walk around your house. What do I see at 180 degrees of every room? You'll probably be surprised. And then the other one is color. Color makes a huge difference. Color adds or detracts energy. So red is probably the most powerful color. It literally can increase your heart rate. It can get you to eat more, which is why a lot of restaurants are red. A lot of Italian restaurants are red. Like it increases appetite, increases blood flow. I mean, it brings up a lot of feelings. So
for the bedroom, not the kitchen.
Yes. It can be a great color for the bedroom, not a good color for kitchens and dining rooms.
Got it.
If you want to eat less, do not have red kitchens and dining rooms. So the amount of color you use and how much color you use. And color comes in paint, furniture, stuff, bins, like everything has a color. So the more color you're adding, the more energy. Okay. Which can be good in like your workout room or playroom. But how much vibrancy do you want in a bedroom if you're trying to be restful and relaxed?
Right.
You can still, like, blue is a beautiful, wonderful color, very relaxing, fairly neutral. But then if you put like a vibrant piece of art from a trip that you went with all this, that's where the energy comes from. So it's not just wall color, but art color and things like that. So color is huge. The third one that I look at is how much stuff do we have?
Oh,
clutter. But it's just being intentional. Like, again, I don't judge. People pay me to come to their house and give them advice. So there's no judging. The more space we have, the more we're going to fill it up for the most part. But nobody needs 45 pens on their kitchen counter in a little cup.
Good point.
Because all that stuff, each item that you have brings energy. So this energy can translate into stress and anxiety. So if your house or your bedroom, I see a lot of this since the pandemic, people have treadmills in their bedroom and their work desk and all their work papers, and laundry. All of that is energy. And the energy that it is you got work to do. You have laundry to put away. You have things to iron. You have to sort this stuff out. And don't forget to exercise.
Oh,
how do you...
I love exercising. And you said that. And I was like, oh, it hurts.
Yeah. But it's like, how do you sleep with that stuff? So again, small houses are probably the most challenging. I haven't been in a house that I haven't been able to figure out a good plan that works with the people.
Do you know what's so funny? When you said no one needs 45 pens in their kitchen, my immediate reaction was, oh, you can't throw out a perfectly functioning pen. And then I was like, you know what? That's what my clients say when I tell them not to overeat, and they say, but I can't throw it out. To which I respond, it's already garbage by the fact that it's too much. It became garbage when you bought too much and you made too much. You can either put that garbage in the garbage, or you can put it in your body and treat your body as a garbage receptacle.
Yeah. Yep.
So I'm trying to think of like, okay, next time I have that, like, oh, I don't want to throw out this perfectly functioning pen, then is it fair to say, well, that pen is already garbage because it's too much? You don't need that pen at 6 cents. Hey, dude, if you are enjoying this episode and you have a friend that you think might also benefit from this information, please share it with them. That helps my podcast so much, and it's going to help your friend. Share the love. Thanks so much.
Yes, but with the case of the 45 pens, there's always going to be a school or a nonprofit that needs it. So I always, can this be reused? And with, social media nowadays, it's so easy to get rid of stuff.
Right.
To
much more so than like my kids' leftover macaroni and cheese.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. But if it's not something that can really be donated, then it's going to end up in the landfill at some point, sadly. But it is going to be garbage at some point. It's either going to be while you're here on Earth or after you're gone and somebody else threw it. So,
right. And you just spent your lifetime looking at it.
Yeah. And stressing out about it. I have so many clients whose parents or grandparents had passed away, and they have boxes in their basement of all their stuff, and they can't use their house because, so I know it's a daunting task, but it's having less stuff reduces your stress tremendously, which of course wards off the fuckets.
Right. I'm gonna ask you more about that. But so the design principles, you said there was 5. One was the vibe and sight lines. One was color. One is decluttering. What are the other 2?
The other 2 is light. And I don't want to get too much into light bulbs right now, but it's really about that's kind of a whole other thing. I'll mention a few key facts about light bulbs, but it's really about maximizing natural light. There was a woman that I worked with. She hired me to just come over and decorate her house with art that she had already bought, right? She already had everything. She just wanted me to put it together. So she's giving me a tour of the house, and her house, the way it was set up, she had all this tree coverage in the back. So the kind of the back side of the house didn't get any light. And that's where the family room was and the kitchen, and they spend all their time there. And she's like, I'll just come to the front of my house and sit on the staircase so I can get natural light. And she was just like, she said it like 3 times. And I looked over and I'm like, well, what do you use this room for? And it was their formal dining room, but they never used it. Yeah. She left, brought her son to daycare. And in the matter of that like hour that she was gone, I took out her dining room table and put the sofa in the spot and gathered furniture from the rest of her house and decorated that room. And it is now her favorite spot in the whole house because she has all this beautiful sunlight. And her kids hang out there and she hangs out there. So just because a room had a specific use, is it really the best use? And then the other 2 things about light is so many people now have can lights, that strong overhead lighting. We still need lamps. We need layered lighting and lamps that will be a little dimmer in the evening to help relax your body so that you can sleep better.
Okay, so what is the final design principle that we should keep in mind?
Air quality.
Oh.
Design principle of that is bringing in plants. Doesn't have to be a lot, but plants will increase your air quality. Of course, you can have like air diffusers and, air monitors like that. But studies show that it's proven that when people have plants around, their air quality is better and their stress is reduced. So I would recommend at least 1 plant in each room. And the best plant for people who are afraid of plants, because most people think they're going to kill them, the snake plant because they're part of the cactus family, so you don't have to water them very often. I call it a birthday plant. Just water it on your birthday and it will be fine.
Hey, if you're liking this podcast, you might also like my book, Healthy as Fuck. It's an international bestseller and available wherever books are sold. The audiobook is especially awesome, if I do say so myself. And listen, if you go to fitfeelsgood.com/healthyaf, I've got a ton of free bonuses for book readers, so make sure you grab those too. Okay, back to the episode. Thank you for those tips. And I can see as you're going through them how so many of them relate to obviously the habit of chilling out and calming yourself. Tell us more about how you apply design principles to the other 7 habits of highly healthy MFers. Like, what design principles could I do to help me, for example, fill half my plate with vegetables?
Okay. Yeah, these are a little bit more kind of tips and tricks, if you will. Well, let's talk about sleep because there's probably the most with go to fuck to sleep. Okay.
Sure. Great.
The color of your bedroom. Bedrooms are actually the easiest room in the house to do because there's usually the fewest amount of furniture pieces. But I would look at your paint color and go with a soft neutral. And neutral could mean blue, could mean green, doesn't have to be white, doesn't have to be gray. The other thing I would look at is adding in the bedroom some symmetry. So with your bed, I'd have 2 nightstands, 2 lights, because you want, again, that kind of not just overhead lights. You want eye level lights, lower lights in the bedroom. And just being intentional with what you keep in that space. When you're laying in bed, what are you looking at? That's another sight line. And also the position of the bed. There's some feng shui around this. But when you walk into the room, and you can't do this in every bedroom, and I know that, but when you walk into your bedroom, your focal point should be the bed. So the bed shouldn't be kind of behind you.
Right. So that's how we're going to go the fuck to sleep.
Yeah. Okay. Meditate. This, again, every house is different. Like every house is so unique to the person that lives in it. And small houses are the hardest. But finding a dedicated space that you actually want to meditate in. And maybe if you don't use your formal dining room, that can be a great sitting room, which can turn into a place of meditation. So that's really about being intentional about finding a place. I guarantee there's a place. Habit of prep and plan ahead.
Yeah.
That one kind of goes a lot back to like kitchen organization, but making sure that you're setting up zones in your kitchen, like where you're chopping your vegetables and is it close to your sink or your little compost. And making the kitchen, especially where you do your prep, pleasant as possible. It could be anti-fatigue rug, a really cushioned rug, maybe a really cute pattern on it. Maybe it's where you plug in your music or, whatever, but that you have like your station, like, your apron, if you want to get into the whole apron wearing that, but that's your station. Again, it's about being intentional and figuring out what works for you. The exercise consistently habit. So exercise, a woman posted today, I don't know if you saw this in the MFA group, that she's traveling. And she said, wow, it was so easy to work out in this hotel room. I can't wait to get home and find out how to make it this easy. And I was just like, that's exactly it. She's coming back with that trip of being intentional. How can I make it better? How can I make it easier? So some people have a dedicated space that they can turn into an exercise room. Some people don't. But if you're lucky enough that you have that space, and then you think about kind of these 5 key components like color. Well, in most cases, you want some good energy in there. So that's where you put your vibrant piece of art, or maybe you want red for all that energy. My daughter and I painted like a landscape mural and just, like the grass and the sky. And what I loved about that is she is my why. Like she is my why of doing all these healthy habits. So when I'm working out, I'm just surrounded by my why. And she just drew like little characters and it's just, it was really great. And again, I wouldn't put too much stuff because each piece of that you bring in start to add some energy, and it can be a little stressful. It's really tough. I mean, people that have small spaces or in a condo or in an apartment that don't have like a separate room, and you have to work out in your living room or your bedroom, depending on the hand weights or mat or, resistance band, they're in your bedroom. You can have a nice bench at the end of your bed, and you keep all of that stuff in there. It's instant access, but it's put away at night, so you don't have to see it.
Right. So your workout room is a special little thing that you have a little container underneath your bed. And then, oh, okay, that's great. Because that is one thing I was thinking as you were talking. We have a really small house. It's also completely under construction. So for example, in our kitchen right now, my only space is a little like just enough for a cutting board kind of thing. And we're in transition right now. But, a lot of people are listening and they just do not have extra space. So what are some ways that we can apply these principles if we don't have all the luxuries of an extra exercise room and how can we apply the principles without all the privilege? This podcast is made possible by Fit Feels Good, my online fitness and nutrition company. Here's what we do.
I have so many incredible benefits from the MFA program. It literally changed my life. I have the book, Healthy AF. I'm absolutely in love with my life now. I find that the healthy habits that I built are amazing to go back to. The benefits that you're going to see as a woman in your 40s plus are things you could have never imagined. The key, which I know Una talks about over and over again, is loving your body now, not what you're envisioning it to be.
Yeah. Good point. It's about getting creative. So, okay, for a living room, you can have an ottoman instead of a coffee table that has storage in it. And that's where you can keep your workout gear.
Nice. Yeah.
You can have your weights in there, your resistance band, your mat, throw a tray on top of it, put a plant.
There you go.
Should always put a plant on. And there's your coffee table, So it could be something as simple as that. But there's a lot of unique little storage tricks and tips, just kind of depending on what you need. Maybe the DVDs go into a closet and you put your exercise equipment in the media stand instead. It's just, stepping back and taking a look at how you're using your space now, especially if you're following the 7 healthy habits. How can I adjust my house to fit my new lifestyle and support it?
It's a great question. One of these occurred to me the other day. So one of the healthy habits is back away from the booze. And I was noticing as I sit on my favorite spot on the couch that my direct eye line is not only to our, we don't have a huge alcohol collection, but we have like a bottle of tequila and a bottle of scotch. And not only is it in direct eye line, but the sun is shining behind them. They look so beautiful. Totally. Exactly. And I was like, I should probably change that. I should probably put a plant there or something.
Yes, that goes right into back away from the booze. That is a perfect example of what I'm talking about. And they've come out with all these darling bar carts, these cute little bar carts, and you decorate, you put your alcohol on them with all the little martini shakers, and it can look darling. But if that's one of your healthy habits and it's an issue, don't have your bar.
Roll that bar cart all the way out.
Just all the way out to the garage. I mean, it is, again, it's sight lines. It's exactly what you're talking about. Like, what are you seeing? And even, like for me, I love wine. I love a good red wine. And I do not have kitchen cabinets that have glass doors. A lot of people do. A lot of people will put their wine glasses where the glass doors are because they're pretty.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing the glasses, or you're seeing the shakers, or, all of that should not only be put away, but I think if you're really working on that habit, they should be irritating, inaccessible. Like the cabinet above the, that little cabinet above the refrigerator, which is such a pain to get to.
Totally.
Perfect spot. In downstairs, in the back hall,
behind the furnace.
Just like make it difficult. Do not make it easy. So
for sure. And on the other hand, if you wanted to start increasing your intake of fruit and vegetables, then start, chopping them and having them on the kitchen table. This is one thing I've tried to do with my kids. When they get home from school, there's like a bunch of fruits and veggies on the table. And of course they come in and they say like, I'm starving. Can I have some cereal? And I'm like, nope, there's fruits and veggies on the table. And of course they're like, I don't want that. But then of course they eat that because that's what's there.
Yeah. That actually, the fill half your plate with veggies, that is one of the exact things that I was going to talk about. I was recently at a client's house. She just moved in. She has 3 kids, and she hired me to basically help her hang her furniture and reposition her artwork and decor for this new house. So styling for the day. So I went over there and I'm just, changing everything up, and we go into the kitchen, and they have a dining room that they use every night for dinner, which is great. But in her kitchen, they have a little round kitchen table, and there was like a box of markers and crayons and pens. And then on her kitchen table, she had like some little oranges and apples. And I was like going through her cabinets with, that's what people pay me to do. But I found this like 2-tier white ceramic, like Lazy Susan, like a decorative thing that you would have at a party, right? With cheese and crackers or something on. Right. And I put it on her kitchen table, and I put all the markers and crayons on the bottom, and I put apples and oranges on the top. So it's like this spinny, rotating fruit centerpiece.
Oh, and
her kids love it.
Loved it, I'm sure. They thought it was so fun.
So fun. And there's the fruit, and it's consolidated these 2 things together. That's but it great. Also puts the fruit right in front of the kids. So I think a fruit bowl is like the best centerpiece on any counter. So many cute bowls. Fill it full of your fruit and veggies.
Oh, I'm loving this. Melanie, are there any habits that we haven't got to that you wanted to talk about?
The eat everything, but way less of it habit. I think that's the last one. Yeah. And that one, I think, is really, again, thinking about color and the energy that's in your dining room or kitchen. It's also your sight line. So if you're in your kitchen and you look to your TV room and it's just full of toys and stuff that gives you anxiety, that can cause you to eat more.
Oh, I gotcha. Right. So it's not just about seeing food. It's about seeing anything that's going to trigger you to want to eat food, or more food than is necessary. Yeah, I got it.
Yeah, trigger anything that triggers anxiety. If you can see that, that could cause you to eat more. So again, checking those sight lines. And then I think there's a little bit of distracted eating, because I think when you're distracted, you just tend to eat more and you don't realize it. Totally. So it's like, do you have the TV? Do you have a TV in your kitchen? Are you just constantly like watching TV and eating? Or your dining room? Are you eating in your dining room and the TV's blaring in the background? Are you being distracted that way?
Right.
And then this is another kind of trick that I am quite passionate about now, is I reduce the size of my dinner plate. So in the 1950s, a dinner plate was 9 inches, which is now a standard salad plate size.
No way. What I think of a salad plate used to be the actual plate?
Yes.
Oh my gosh. Because ours are 12 inches now. Is that right? Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Oh.
So they increased like in the 80s and 90s, and standard today is between 11 and 12 inches. And our set of dishes that we bought, 10 years ago, our dinner plates were 11 and a half inches and our salad plates were 9 inches. And I took those, 11-inch dinner plates and I put them on the upper cabinet, which I can hardly reach.
Yeah.
And we use the 9-inch plates.
Wow.
And it's amazing. I mean, it took a while to get used to, but.
And did you notice you're eating less food?
Yeah, because you can't put as much on there without making it look like a mountain,
And then were you hungrier after?
No, not necessarily.
No. You just had to get used to the visual of having less food in front of you.
Yeah, it's amazing. So right now, the bowls that came with that set, I mean, they're huge.
Yeah.
So now I want to go and get like a more appropriate, smaller bowl size for.
Like what would now be a coffee cup, basically.
Probably. Yeah. or a
Wow.
dessert cup.
Oh, that's a great tip. Is there anything else you wanted to say about how to design your space for healthier living?
When people are working on their healthy habits, they're being very intentional about their kitchen and maybe their mindset and their body. And maybe they're being very intentional about work if that's stressful. But I think people don't think about their spaces. You've probably heard the term house blind. And I think with COVID, with the pandemic, it forced people to look at their house differently. And I think people are more aware of their surroundings on the functional side, but not necessarily as aware of how it's affecting them. So just kind of looking, knowing that color, natural light, clutter, and sight lines are so important, dramatically affect your mood, your energy, and your vibe. And then just figuring out what works for you.
That's so true. I think because we've been living in this construction reno for so long, I think I've been house blind. Like we have a dishwasher that's been sitting in the middle of the living room. All, we kind of use it as a table now. And I'm so blind to it because it's been like this for so long. But we have people coming to stay with us in about 2 weeks. And all of a sudden I'm looking around being like, whoa, there's a dishwasher in our living room. And it makes you wake up to it because you do get house blind. You do stop seeing things that why is there a big jumble of wires here on my desk that's been there forever? I probably stare at that 5,000 times a day and it probably gives me anxiety on some level, but I just tune it out.
Yeah. Renovations are exhausting. But now when you put your house back together, really think about where things are, how much is exposed versus being concealed, how much color between your canisters on your countertops and any artwork and patterns add energy. So it's just finding the right amount of balance of energy that you want and having that energy in the right places.
Yes. I love it. This has been such a timely conversation for me. And I'm so honored that you offered this service to help people based on the habits in my book. Why don't you tell people where they can get in touch with you, follow you? How can they use your services? Anything like that?
Yeah. So I'm on Instagram at Happy Place Interiors. My website is happyplaceinteriors.com. And I do have the service. It has your book on it and a link to buy your book and everything. And I do locally in Minnesota, I do in-home consultations, but I can do them virtually. I do virtual consultations across the U.S. I have clients in California and Pittsburgh and Dallas.
That's awesome. Well, thank you so much again for taking the time to talk with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Hey, thanks for listening in. So I'm curious, is there anything you are going to change in your home based on my conversation with Melanie? I am going to right now get my booze bottles out of their focal point shelf, backlit by the sun like a stained glass window in church. Yikes. Until next week. Hey dude, thanks for listening. If you like this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you can get the next one. And by the way, if you rate and review this podcast, it really helps me get found by other people who need some goals, grit, and some woo-woo shit. And be sure to connect and DM me at Una Duncan on Instagram and let me know what you thought of the episode. Chat soon.